Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Red Dead Online and we're doing another cosplay guide. This time it's for a little bit more over-the-top, stereotypical Confederate, rebel, Civil War cavalry officer. I think I used a lot of keywords there. So this is basically something that would be, it's an area where there was a lot more variation than your standard rank and file soldiers. And I think that this is a great way to be a little bit more creative with the design instead of historically accurate. If you're interested in historically accurate, I've already released a Johnny Reb one where I try to be as close to historically accurate or at least authentic as I can be with a Confederate foot soldier during the Civil War. But in this one, we're going to do a Confederate cavalry officer, and this one's going to be a little bit more over the top and a little bit more creative in design. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to try to keep it all as authentic as I can while making a good looking outfit. So let's just dive on into it with weapons. Okay, so first thing we're going to do for this is going to be sidearms, and with that we're going to go with 2 Lamette revolvers. Now the reason for this is the Lamette revolver was extraordinarily popular during the Civil War because it held 9 shots and then had the additional 20 gauge buckshot or slug or whatever they wanted to use in that underbarrel. So it made it a super good weapon. Keep in mind, the standard issue weapon at this time was still a single shot muzzle loading weapon, and a good rifleman could fire 3 shots a minute out of that. Well, with the Lamette revolver, you've got 10 shots at your disposal before you have to reload. So what would be a very common, or at least pretty dang common for the time, now because like I've said in my previous Civil War video, there was a ton of variation. It's not nearly as standard issue as a lot of people would have you think. There was a ton of different weapons being used, and repeaters existed at this time, revolvers existed at this time. There was plenty of stuff other than just percussion cap, black powder, muzzle-loading weapons. But with that in mind, the Lamette was very popular, especially in the South and especially among cavalry troops. And I was able to find several historical examples of cavalry officers that were reported to use 2 Lamette revolvers. So they had 18 or 20 shots, depending how you look at it, before they had to reload, especially from horseback, which is where revolvers were an excellent weapon to use. So we're going to go with 2 Lamette revolvers for this outfit, all browned steel because it was a very common style for it. The black steel would also be fine, or a real wore-out nickel plating would be fine because I was able to find historical examples of all of them. But I think the brown steel looks the best for it and matches the most reproductions or period-accurate antiques that I've found while researching for this video. And with that, I went with the ebony grips because on most of the Lamettes I found they had a black grip. With all that in mind, that's the sidearms like I said. For this outfit, we're actually going to be using 2 of these because on horseback, you don't want to have to stop and reload. And that's a lot of shots to have at your disposal, so 2 it is. All right, and for our primary weapon for our cavalry officer, we're going to be going with the carbine repeater. And now the reason for this is because this is based off of, or at least to the best of my ability of finding this out, it's based off the Civil War 1860 Spencer carbine, which is very, very common for horse soldiers and cavalry officers. The design you want to go for with this is sort of a reddish, dark brown looking varnish for the wood, and then all brown steel for all the components, because that's your standard issue look for most of these, at least historical examples I could find. You could go with blacked or blued because they also existed, but the brown steel matches the most closely with what I was able to find. These weapons were exceedingly common because, you know, as one would expect, you cannot actually reload, or at least it would be exceedingly difficult to reload a muzzle-loading weapon on horseback. So short of just using sidearms, which some did, many cavalry officers and horse soldiers would actually use carbines like this. And they would generally be, at least this model, the 1860 Spencer, would have a 7-shot tube-loading magazine in the stock, just like it is in the game. So it's very, very easy to reload from horseback, gives you 7 shots before you have to reload. It's a nice, accurate, long-arm rifle. So that's the rifle we're going to be going with as the primary weapon for our Confederate cavalry officer. Alright, so here we are moved on to the outfit. And now, as a note, it is important to add that most cavalry officers and horse soldiers would actually be equipped with sabers, or cavalry swords, depending, you know, on the era and regiment. There's a lot of variation, like I always try to tell people. There is currently no saber or sword in this game. There is a style of machete that's kind of close, and if you really want to go with that, I guess it works, even though I don't think you can even use it from horseback. But really, nothing quite does justice for a Civil War saber, so we're just going to have to skip past that. But this is the outfit, and as you can see, it's pretty interesting looking, and like I said, I was figuring this one is just going to be a little bit over the top. So, as I've pointed out previously, there was a lot of variation in this period. Regiment to regiment and within the regiment, and a lot of it would come down to basically personal preference. So I just stuck with the Confederate theme and kind of went with what a cavalry officer, because I pulled up a ton of images from photographs from the period, basically made kind of an amalgamation of some of the cooler parts of a lot of these uniforms that I found. So let's just jump right into it and go through it piece by piece. Now for hats, I just went with the regimental hat, as I'm sure you recognize, and I went with this kind of tannish variant because it was very, very common in the Confederate Army at this time to have these tan hats, even with the gray uniforms. Now there is this gray variant that was less common. Interesting. But the yellow and tan colors seem to stand out more. I'm sure it has something to do with being able to recognize officers on the battlefield so troops know where to look when they need direction. Very similar to all the way back in ancient Rome, centurions, the reason they had those big, goofy, colorful crests on their head was so their soldiers knew where to look to get commands. So I think that's why they go with these more visible hats on the battlefield. But that's the one I went with. I think it looks the best, and like I said, out of all the examples I found, this matches the color the best. So that's the hat. So for the jacket part, the upper torso covering outfit here, it was actually a bounty hunter outfit, so I went with the Wakeney for the upper half. Now see, with roll outfits, you can do full outfits, upper garments, and lower garments. So you can kind of mix and match these outfits. I know a lot of people don't know about that, but you can, so I did that here. So I went with the Wakeney for the upper garment here. I went with this gray variant. Now there's this one that's a little bit lighter, which I guess works as well. I just like the way this one looks a little bit better. So that's the one, the reason I went with this one. It has the double line of buttons that you saw in a lot of officers at this period. It has a bandolier, which I guess fits considering we equipped this cavalry officer with a carbine, so that would be something that's decently period accurate. It's got a bit long for the tails in the back considering how short it's cut up front, but it's really fine. But yeah, that's the upper torso covering that I went with here, was the upper gray Wakeney. And then for the lower part of this, I actually went with the Carthage. So it's another bounty hunter one, and you can only mix and match roll outfits in the same role. So you can mix and match upper and lower bounty hunter ones. You cannot mix an upper bounty hunter with a lower trader outfit or something. For some reason, they don't allow that. But I went with the Carthage one because it's got these cavalry style pants that I really wanted. See, in this time, people who would be spending a lot of time on horses would oftentimes have an extra layer of canvas sewed onto basically the butt and inner thighs and around the legs of the pants. So it would look a lot like this. So it would actually be an additional layer of cloth on top of the pants that would protect the pants, keep them holding together longer, and provide a little bit extra cushioning for the wearer, you know, so that way they wouldn't get as uncomfortable riding. And I went with these ones because they've got the right color scheme. The inside looks like the lighter kind of tannish color of the canvas, and the outside still has the gray appearance of the uniform that we're going for. So yes, I went with the lower, the Carthage pants for the lower section, and I like the boots too. The boots just look a little bit over the top for me. I really like that. I'm picturing some sort of a wealthy dandy boy joining the army at this time and having some real fancy boots that I'm sure he's going to get made fun of for. But that's why I went with the lower Carthage for the pants and boots and everything for this. So that's the pants and boots. Then I did add gloves to this one. I added the cavalry gloves. I think they look the best for it, and it was very common for cavalry troops, officers in general, all of that to be wearing gloves while they were doing this. So that's why I went with these ones. Most gloves will work, but I think the cavalry ones look the best. So that's why I went with them. For the gun belt, I went with the standard agency gun belt because I wanted a real plain looking gun belt so it wouldn't clash too much with the already very present stylistic features and accents on this outfit. So I stuck with the plain agency gun belt. Everyone has this gun belt. You get it right at the beginning of the game. No matter what you do. So it's something that I think fits with this outfit very, very well. And since I was deciding to do two handguns for this one, you know, out of historical accuracy and just a desire to have two handguns on my cavalry officer, I decided to go with the black horsemanship holster as the offhand holster because I think it most closely matches the plain and simple style of the agency gun belt. So that's why I went with this one. If at this time you were going to have some sort of a double holstered drop leg gun belt, that would obviously not be standard issue, so it would really be whatever you wanted it to be. I just went with the plain look to keep the military theme kind of going. And then I do actually want to buckle on this one because this one's an officer. I'm just going to pretend that this money sign is the CSA logo because this has the right shape. So this is the entrepreneur buckle that I used here, but the supply chain one looks the same. And I know that further up the line, like this one here, the seasoned trader belt buckle. So really the trader belt buckles have the right shape for it. So that's the way we went with the belt buckle. But yeah, in sum, that is the cavalry officer. Now, obviously, this outfit is a little bit more difficult to assemble because you need to have the right skills leveled up and you need to be able to get bounty hunter stuff, but you could just go with the gray Wakeney outfit for the bounty hunter, which is the very first outfits you unlock for bounty hunting. So it's not something that would be hard to get across. It's not as good as this mix is, but it works similarly well with this hat and the weapon equipment. So like I said, that is my Civil War Southern Cavalry officer outfit for the Confederate States of America. Like I said, definitely less historically authentic than my Johnny Reb foot soldier one was. So if you want to go for something a little bit more typical, then that would be the one. But this one does match. I made sure that every choice I made at least a little bit of sense in the historical context. Plus, I think it looks pretty cool. So if you wanted to go for a Southern Cavalry officer, this is, in my opinion, the best way to do it. If you have any recommendations or anything else you'd like to see, of course, let me know down in the comment section. I can recreate most things from this time period in this game because there's just a ton of clothing options. But with all that in mind, thanks for watching and have a nice day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.